This will work. Happy Tuesday. We'll check that one. I feel like the first week of June just completely disappeared. Does anyone feel the same way? Like, where did the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th of June go? I don't know. I don't know. And this lighting is horrendous, but we'll make it work. Thank you for being here. I have been thinking about more emotional topics that I can cover because female founders, business owners, and C-suite executives often have a lot of feelings. It's an emotional roller coaster, to say the very least. To own your own business is certainly not for the faint-hearted. It's not for everyone. It's not easy. It's damn stressful. You know, 1 minute you are celebrating having made your first $10,000 month. The next minute you have a client who's upset that you misspelled their name and wants a refund and never wants to talk to you ever again. And it's everything in between. There's nothing straightforward or linear about it, just like with weight loss and fat loss and your lifting journey. So I didn't really realize how many strategies I actually have when it comes to handling emotion, but having been an athlete more or less my whole life, I guess you develop really great coping skills and mechanisms to deal with high pressure and high stress climates, environments. And you have to be able to do that in business because business is largely about energy management. And energy is largely about how you manage your emotions. If you are forever feeling as though you are managing not just your own emotions, but the emotions of everyone around you, then of course you're going to feel that for energy. So that's just one small component of energy. It's managing emotions. It's how you handle your emotions, your relationship to those emotions. What do you do with them, which is positive? What do you do with them, which is maybe less positive and not as conducive to the desired outcome? That is really what I consider when I consider the word energy. And a lot of people come to me because they want to feel more energized. And don't we all? I mean, let's face it, we're all short on sleep. And I am the poster child for being short on sleep. Thankfully, I started retinol and sunscreen at a young age, so it doesn't show too much. But, you know, I could definitely do with a little bit more. So we all have room for improvement. We are, a lot of us, rather, not too kind to ourselves, and that is definitely draining. A lot of us take on the emotions of others, and that is definitely draining. A lot of us are overworked, underpaid, and that's draining. And a lot of us honestly just don't have the emotional support that we really need to get the most out of life. And we're very underskilled and underdeveloped in that way. So I thought I would do a little training on how we can combat, process, manage, handle these emotions in a more productive manner. I'm just going to make sure my volume is up for Instagram. Any issues with the audio, let me know. If you have any questions, just drop them right below and I will get back to you, of course. So a lot of us will be familiar with the feeling of anxiety. Who has experienced anxiety before? I think that would probably be most of us, if not all of us. And anxiety is actually characterized by worrying about the future. Something that may happen, may not happen. We don't know yet because we're not there yet. So we anticipate, but often our anticipation also comes about in a way that creates a feeling of stress. And that is often what we're referring to when we think of the word anxiety. And while I'm on that point, I want to highlight that if we think about nervous emotions, often we are not so great at differentiating between nerves and excitement. So if you're catching yourself feeling nervous, for example, about a presentation, perhaps you have a big presentation to give or a big meeting to attend, and you're feeling a little impostery, good old imposter syndrome, it might be worth checking yourself and asking the question if you are in fact feeling excited. Because maybe you're both. Maybe there's a little bit of excitement sprinkled in with those nerves. And that can be a more empowering way to experience that emotion, is by giving yourself the permission to feel excited and not just nervous. I don't think nervousness is a bad emotion necessarily. When I was swimming, I would get nervous. Oh my God, Dr. Jaylee Naya is here. I just did a podcast with her on perfectionism, and I really am excited to have that podcast come out because it's going to be amazing. If you can relate to the topic of perfectionism and only ever being able to get something completely correct, or you completely self-sabotage and you up big time because you want to prove to yourself that you're just incapable of getting something perfect, or if you just never get traction in anything because you can never go about it the right way, you have to find the perfect gym located right next to your house or right next to your office, and it has to be exactly 3:37 the time that you go, and it has to be the most meticulously planned workout in the world. If that sounds like you, then that's an episode you want to listen to. That should be launching in the next 2 weeks. So please check that out. She has a book as well. I believe it's called Good Sport. I need to grab myself a copy and read it because I'm a huge fan of her work. So thank you for being here. And thank you. Yeah, just thank you. Like full stop. Thank you. It's like such a girl crush moment. I'm really such a fan of her work. So exciting. Yeah, so talking about excitement, nerves and excitement. Often we kind of not mislabel, but we're not so great at differentiating between feeling nervous and feeling excited. So I just want you to hear that if you're coming to this and you're like, yeah, there's something I feel nervous about and I just feel a bit like stressed, like, oh my God, what if it doesn't go right? Know that often we're also excited, and suddenly our relationship with that emotion starts to change and become a little bit more empowering. And don't we just all want to feel a little bit more empowered? I think most of us probably do. I would not say no to feeling more empowered, so I can only assume the same would be true for a lot of people listening. All right, guys, let's get a little nittier and grittier. Thank you for being here. Please do drop your comments, questions, queries below. I'll make sure I get back to you. So we're talking about anxiety, and that's often characterized by feeling worried about the future, something that has not yet happened, something that may happen but may not happen. And I can absolutely relate to this emotion. When I think back to when I was moving from my hometown of Brisbane, that's not the Gold Coast, by the way. It's not. It's close, but it's not. So when I was moving from Brisbane to Singapore, there were a lot of unknowns. There were a lot of open tabs in my brain and a lot of tabs that I just couldn't shut because I didn't yet have enough information to take the next step or make a decision. Whether it was a good decision or a bad decision is completely irrelevant. I just didn't have enough information to feel that I could make a decision. And that brought about a lot of anxiety, which just reminded me of another time that I felt super anxious was when I came to Singapore and I did manage to get a job and I couldn't keep the job. The company I was working for was very new. They couldn't get me a working visa at the time. I had been here for 3 months. I was starting to feel settled in, getting into the routine of day-to-day life. It was a week before my birthday, and I felt, honest to God, as though someone had pulled the rug out beneath me. I was in tears leaving the house each day. I just felt so anxious. What have I done with my life? What the heck am I doing here? Was this just a complete waste of my life? Too much of a gamble? Did I bite off more than I could chew? Were some of the thoughts that I was having. I honestly had to force myself to get out of the house, and I'm glad that I did because I needed that. I needed a change of environment. I needed to go and create some endorphins by exercising, but it was very anxiety inducing. So I was just about in tears. I felt like I don't really even know what I'm doing with my life. Why did I do this? Why did I take the big leap? And look at me now. It's okay. It's almost 8 years later, but it's a very uncertain feeling, anxiety. And this is how I have navigated anxiety before. So when it comes to strategy, I'm very much a pen and paper kind of gal. The people who are trained by me, the gorgeous people I coach, are forever gifting me really beautiful notebooks because they know that I like to write things down. And I find it to be very cathartic because when you're writing, you're very focused on the motion of the writing utensil, whether that's a pen or a pencil. You're very focused on that movement. So it's a little bit easier to be present with yourself when you're having to focus on something. When you're on your phone and you're typing, there's a lot of notifications and distractions that can come up and interfere with how you're processing what you're writing. So I prefer to go back to pen and paper, less distracted, more present with myself, and I find it to be more helpful. And when it comes to anxiety, I like to have two different columns. I like to have a column A, which contains all of the controllable and actionable items. Okay, so when it comes to, for example, if we're thinking about moving country, if I know when I'll be moving, then I can book the tickets for the plane. Okay, so that would go into column A. If I know what the climate is like of the country I'm moving to, then I can pack, suitable clothing and other household items which may factor that in. So if I know I'm moving somewhere that rains all the time, such as Singapore, I can pack an umbrella. Do you know what I packed when I moved here? This is so nerdy. Oh my god. So there's two things that I packed which were really, really nerdy. I packed a stapler because, do you know what? I hate not having a stapler. I'm just going to put that out there. I really feel so irritated, and I use a stapler probably twice a year, but when I don't have one and when I need one, I feel really irritated. So I packed a stapler. And the second funny thing that I packed, which makes a lot of sense, okay, I'm very practical, I packed a first aid kit because, hey, I don't know if and when I may need a bandage or band-aid or, betadine, some antiseptic solution. Anyway, so before I go off on a complete tangent, when you're feeling anxious and worried about the future, we want to ground ourselves with thoughts about what you can influence and what you can control now. So I have a column A, and that's what I would list there. For example, moving country, okay, if I know that it rains all the time in Singapore, I can pack an umbrella. If I know that it's hot and humid all the time, I'm probably not going to pack anything made out of wool because I'll die. I'm going to pack shorts. I'm going to pack flip-flops. I'm going to pack light clothing, linen, cotton, etc. Then in column B, I list all of the things that are on my mind which I cannot yet take action over because I don't have enough information yet. So that goes into column B. And that can change as well. Items can shift from column A to column B and vice versa as you walk further down the path of, in this case, moving country. So column B, what does that look like? You may not yet have a date to have the removalists come to your house. So you might be in the phase of researching different moving companies, different relocation experts. You may not yet have a date. So that would go into column B for now. Once you have that booked, then that goes into column A. It is something that is in your control, something that you've taken action over. Okay. Another example of the column B might be if you are relocating and you're moving with children, you may not yet have a space at a school secured. again, you may still be in the research phase and you're not yet sure of which child you'll be sending to where. Okay, you don't know which child you'll be sending to which school. And so that's still in the column B section for now. Though once you have that space secured, then of course you can shift that across to column A. So the way I work that is 2 columns. It's the controllables, column A, what you can influence, what you have control over, what you can take action on now, because you know what squashes anxiety? Action. And this is why, you know what, I think this is why a lot of people feel anxious, because they don't take action. Why do they not take action? Because they fear judgment. Mostly from themselves, in fact. They don't realize that. They think they fear judgment from other people, but that is just a mirror reflection of the relationship they have with themselves. So if we look at that and look at things from that angle, in fact, people fear their own self-criticism and feeling like a failure more than they fear other people judging or criticizing them. And a lot of the time, we're not even really aware of what people think of us. Because, I mean, imagine how many people you walk past or see in a day, and how many assumptions, presumptions, criticisms, judgments other people have of us. And we don't know what they are. We can't read other people's minds, and people usually don't tell us that up front. So, something to be mindful of. But I really think this is a contributing factor to people's anxiety. They don't take action. Okay. When you take action, you get that hit of dopamine, you get to tick something off your list, you take your own power and do something positive with that power, you influence the situation. And for whatever remains thereafter, what you can't put in column A or column B, maybe you could develop a column C. You just honestly need to expand your bandwidth for sitting in the discomfort of the unknown, because that's just life. There are so many unknowns. I could walk outside and get struck by lightning today, and that could be the end. Hopefully not. I have enjoyed today so far. I've really enjoyed my life so far. May I have many more amazing days on this planet and with your amazing selves. But what I want to highlight here is we don't get to create certainty out in our life by also taking no action and having no ownership. So there comes a point where you have to ask yourself, is all of this anxiety and worry worth the potential judgment from other people? Because at the end of the day, other people's judgment is not lethal. You have to. I'm trying to think of an instance where that might be true. Maybe in another part of the world, maybe in another culture, I don't know. But other people's judgment is not lethal. And other people don't owe it to us to like us. I think you have to remember that as well. So I digress. That is one of my strategies for anxiety. What I also find to be really, really helpful when it comes to anxiety is higher intensity intervals on a stationary bike. Could be a ski erg, it could be a rowing machine. I find that to be really, really helpful when I'm feeling anxious, to gravitate more towards higher intensity intervals for my cardio. That could also look like boxing, and boxing can be very, very cathartic. It's very quick, it's very powerful, high impact. I really, really find that to be a great way to address feelings of anxiousness. What that looks like for me would be 15 seconds, 15 seconds, super, super, super fast on my choice of cardio. And typically for me, that's going to be a stationary bike. And then following that with 45 seconds of easy, catch my breath, and then go again. I might do that for 5 rounds. I might do that for 10 rounds. I might, if I'm really anxious, do that for 15 rounds. But to have that ability to really get your energy out of the body and into movement can be super, super, super helpful. And when I'm feeling anxious, I find the higher intensity ratio of like 1 to 3, so 1 part super intense, 3 parts easy, to do a really good job at helping me to return to emotional equilibrium. So that's just me. That's just what I've observed. The other thing that was really twanging. Holy shit, I didn't sound that Australian in a long time. The other thing I find to be really helpful is box breathing. The box breathing is characterized by an inhale of 4 seconds, a holding of your breath for 4 seconds, an exhale of 4 seconds, followed by another hold of 4 seconds. So as you would imagine, every side to the breath is equal, like 4 seconds. Although I know that's an unlucky number in some cultures, maybe you want to stick to 5 seconds. So inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. And you may go through that cycle of breathing 5, 8, 10 times until you feel that you've reached emotional equilibrium. They are some of my strategies for dealing with anxiety and anxiousness. But honestly, expanding your emotional bandwidth for uncertainty is super helpful and important, especially if you're an anxious person, okay? Because if you're a quote unquote anxious person, if you feel that you have that label, first of all, the label is not going to help you because that's now built into your self-identity. Second of all, your eye is probably trained to look for things that may go wrong. And if that's the case, then you're always going to have some level of uncertainty open in your brain. You're always going to have tabs open in your brain filled with, uncertainty, unpredictables, etc., etc., etc. So then you may just want to go out there and pursue things that are uncertain, like get on a roller coaster. You don't know exactly how the roller coaster ride is going to go. You know it is a roller coaster. You know it's going to last about 2 to 3 minutes, and then you'll get off. But the ride itself is uncertain. I think there's merit in exposure therapy. That's how you get better at building comfort with the unknown. And that, by and large, is what anxiety is, okay? So let's take that in and take in some water because I am really thirsty this morning. So we're going to go on to the second emotion, which is overwhelm. Oh, Anastasia's here. I'm so excited for your birthday, by the way. I cannot wait to celebrate you in August. Who else is born in August? We're just going to skip June. June is not that important for birthdays. July is a little bit more important, and definitely August. So when it comes to overwhelm, I actually did a podcast with Beata Jaskowiak. Oh my God, fingers crossed I got that right. So that will be launching either this week or next. You'll make sure you'll want to see that, listen to that if you constantly or regularly feel overwhelmed. For me, the feeling of overwhelm is almost feeling as though the task ahead of you is greater than the strength within you. And if you think about it, you have survived every single challenging day you've ever had. So there's a significant amount of data to suggest that you can survive every challenging moment that lies ahead of you as well. So overwhelm kind of feels like an overflowing cup. It's like there's more than I can handle. When I think about overwhelm, it kind of makes me think back to when I first started personal training. And initially I could do 3 sessions in a row and quite well. And I thought, feel good, feel fine, I'm ready to eat because I eat every 3 hours. And that was no qualm to me. And I thought that was kind of like my upper limit. Then I once agreed to do 4 sessions in a row, and I managed that. And then 4 became 5, and I managed 5 sessions back to back, and I was still okay. And 5 became 8, which became 10, which became 12, and I have done 13 hours straight. Now, why is that? It's because I increased my bandwidth for taking that many sessions in a row. It meant I had to be more organized. It meant I had to have more structure in my life. It meant that I had to get better at focusing. So I had to improve my ability to focus. It required a bit from me, but over time, I let myself grow. And a lot of people get in their own way and they obstruct their own growth because they have put glass ceilings on themselves. They don't realize that. What I did was I was open. Okay, I was open to doing that fourth session. I was open to doing the fifth session in a row. I was open to doing 8 sessions in a row. 8 became 10, became 12. And to this day, I have done 13 sessions nonstop. Okay, so what I want people to take away from that is often overwhelm is feeling as though you don't have the capacity or you don't have the bandwidth to handle what's in front of you. The only way you get better at dealing with that is by dealing with that. And that doesn't sound like a very helpful thing. It almost sounds like a super obvious statement, but this is what people don't do. You know, if they always go to the gym and they always use 10 kilos for their goblet squats and they always do 3 sets of 15, they then wonder why they're not getting stronger. Well, you haven't increased your bandwidth for strength. So your body is not going to build the strength it needs to do 12.5 kilos unless you do 12.5 kilos. I think this is the other thing too. A lot of people think that they need to have evidence of something in order to be able to do it, versus doing something, then having the evidence that you did it, right? I would never have done 12 sessions back to back had I stopped and wondered and pondered and thought about whether I had enough evidence to suggest that I could do that. No, I just dived straight in. I said, okay, yep, here we go, 12 sessions. I'm going to figure it out. Then I got the evidence and then I got the proof. Too many people are focused on needing to see something in order to think they have what it takes to do it. They need evidence that they can move countries and build the life of their dreams in order to do that. I moved here with no money, no job, and no visa, and I figured it the fuck out. And now I have evidence to suggest that I can relocate with no money, no job, and no visa and get by just fine. Not to say it was easy, but I managed. And I built skills along the way to be able to do that. So people don't spend enough time building skills. They constantly go through life trying to handle the same emotions with the same skill set and wondering why their experience in the world hasn't changed. It should be no fucking wonder. Like, when did you last sit down and work on increasing your bandwidth for overwhelm, for anxiety? When did you last sit down and work on creating appreciation of yourself and acceptance of yourself? People just don't do this as a regular practice. So I wanted to add that. You know, I like to rant about things. If this is your first time here, welcome. You're in for a rant from time to time. So anyway, overwhelm. When we are feeling overwhelmed, often what we need is we need clarity and we need structure. And we need to remember what we're made of, okay? So what I like to do is I like to do a brain dump. I'll just get a blank piece of paper, write down absolutely everything that is on my mind. And from there, what I do is I categorize what is on the piece of paper with various themes. Okay, so if I see on the list that there's a number of things that I need to do around the house, then I will use a certain color highlighter or pen to identify those items. If there's a number of items on my piece of paper relating back to personal admin, maybe it's replacing my passport because it has water damage. That just reminds me of something to do. If it's a number of things related to a trip, maybe it's Christmas, maybe there's a number of gifts that I need to get for Christmas, maybe there's decorations, maybe there's food, because y'all know I like a turkey and cranberry sauce. I will start to identify all those things and put them in different categories. Once everything is categorized, then I'm going to list everything for each category in order of importance and order of priority, so that I can then very easily see in my different lists, my different columns, what I need to take action on now. What is most urgent and what is most urgent. You could even put an asterisk next to if you wanted to. There's different ways you can structure this, but this is just how I like to do it. And then from there, I have clarity on what needs my immediate attention. And I have clarity on what I can schedule into the rest of my day, the rest of my week, the rest of my month. You see, we're very, very quick to think everything needs an immediate response from us right now. And it's just not the case. We are very quick to look at our phone or watch or iPad or MacBook or what is the other device we're toying with these days? Magic glasses. Okay, that would be the next thing. We're very quick to look at every single notification every single time we receive one. And I want you to get better at letting your phone buzz, letting your watch buzz, and not looking at it the moment it does that. Also, if you have children and you're constantly looking at your phone every single time it vibrates, every single time it makes a noise, your children are going to learn that that device is more important to them. And, you know, that's just not really cool, is it? Because devices are not more important than our children. That's not how you raise a child, by giving your phone more attention than your child, or by looking at it every single time it vibrates, the moment it vibrates, the moment it makes a noise. That's just not cool. So I want you to practice letting those notifications come through and just breathing, because chances are you're holding your breath and your shoulders are around your ears. And I know this because I see how people move and I see how you breathe or don't breathe. And I just want you to let it buzz, let it ping, just let the notification be there and let yourself do nothing about it for like 2 minutes. Give that a go. That is my way of dealing with overwhelm on pen and paper. When it comes to exercise, I really enjoy a long walk behind my condo. I'm very spoiled. Beautiful scenery behind the condo that I live in. And I find to be super helpful is just going for a walk without any device so that I can just think and be with my thoughts. 2, I'm then not distracted by anything. So I'm not able to take action on anything, which builds momentum for me to take action the moment I am reunited with my phone or with my iPad or with my computer. So I find that to be a really great way to just take half an hour to an hour, step away from my devices, go for a walk, be with my thoughts, get all my thoughts out there, start to strategize how I'm going to take action on all the things that need my attention, and then get back to it. Chances are we're not nearly as productive as what we could be because we're constantly reacting to things, thinking everything needs to be action now, and it really does not. So that can be super helpful. You might also like to swim. I used to swim myself. What I miss about swimming is just being in a quiet space with my own thoughts. I can just play whatever music I want in my head. It's just myself and the water, and I just really miss that experience. I really find swimming so challenging now that I haven't swum for the longest time, and my body fat percentage is much less than what it used to be, which means I don't float nearly as well as what I used to be. So swimming is even harder for that reason. But aside from that, I find walking to be really helpful without devices. Okay, not an opportunity to put in a podcast, not an opportunity to be looking at your phone and taking photos. No, just put your phone at home, just take your keys, be with nature, enjoy the surroundings, and be with your thoughts. A lot of people do not spend time with their thoughts or feelings for that matter. So when they have thoughts and feelings, it's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with these things. How do I get rid of them? Yeah, I mean, that's to be expected when you have no bandwidth for sitting with yourself. We all need to do that more. Okay. And my last, I just wanted to touch on that when it comes to the breathing. I like to inhale for 8, inhale for 7, exhale for 8. And I even do this in time with my steps. So as I'm walking, I'm inhaling for 5 steps. I'm just trying to, it's been a little while. So inhale, 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 and then exhale for 6 steps. So you're going to take 6 steps as you exhale before returning back to an inhale. You can do this if you like running. Good for you. That's a bit weird, isn't it? I don't like running. I'm sorry, I just don't understand. But anyway, same thing will work for running, obviously with a shorter frame in mind for the inhale and exhale. You may want to inhale for 3, exhale for 4 if you're running. If you're walking, it's a little bit easier. You can inhale for longer, exhale for longer because you're obviously, your respiratory rate is lower. So I would be inhaling for 5, exhaling for 6. That you may find to be helpful in terms of breath work. So moving on to the last one, feeling stuck and feeling a little bit like a failure. Being there, have definitely been there. I've had weeks, I've had months where I just felt like I'm not getting any traction in life. I'm like spinning my wheels, going nowhere fast. And that is super damn frustrating. I know this feeling, like really. And when you're an athlete, do you know what? Sometimes you don't do a personal best for years, especially if you are at the top of your game. Think about it. If you hold the world record for a particular event, whether that's in swimming or another sport, you may not do a personal best for 3, 4, 5 years, even longer. It can become really discouraging and really disheartening to keep turning up to training when you feel like there's just no tangible progress, especially on time-based sports. Like, well, my world record is this, and how do I go 1/100th of a second faster to go faster than my world record? You know, it's not so easy to stay engaged when that is your reality. And this is why I came up with this method, because as you stop growing physically, so, you know, I was swimming from competitively from about the age of 9. When you physically stop growing, or when your rate of growth starts to slow down, oftentimes your rate of personal bests also starts to slow down. It's easier to do personal bests when you are growing 1 inch, 2 inches every other year. It's a little bit more challenging when your arm span has maxed out and you're not able to produce more force with your arms because they're not getting longer. Maybe they're getting stronger, but they're definitely not getting that much longer beyond a certain age. And I think most of my physical growth happened by the age of 14. Not much happened after then. This method really allowed me to stay engaged with my training, and I call it the achievements list. So I would take a lined piece of paper and stick it to the back of my bedroom door with blue tack, of course, because, you know, it's door friendly. And what I would do is after every single training session, I would put something on that list that I was proud of. Okay. So I would write the date and I would write what I did that I was proud of. And it would be such a nice way to wake up and see what I had done well in the previous session. And this was all on me. This was not something that my coach necessarily gave me a pat on the back for, or gave me merit for, or acknowledged, or, you know, even talked about. At the end of the day, I wasn't there for my coach anyway. I was there for me. It also encouraged me to think during my training about what I could do that would leave me feeling proud and worthy of putting on that list. So in training, I was like, okay, well, if I managed to average under, 42 seconds per 50 freestyle kick, then I would feel really, really proud. And I would feel like that would be, quote unquote, worthy of putting on this achievements list. It kept me engaged and motivated, and generally just allowed me to be happier in training because I got to see even more of the good things that I was doing. And again, when you're competing, you're not always going to do a personal best. And when your rate of growth, physical growth, starts to slow down, then your rate of personal best also tends to slow down. So whether it was in the gym training that I was doing for my swimming, or whether it was in the swimming sessions themselves, I found this to be an excellent way to keep tabs on what I had moved the needle on, even if it wasn't my 100 freestyle time, even if it wasn't my 200 individual medley time. If I did a set in training that I was proud of, then I wrote that list and I got to put it on the list. And to this day, I can read those lists and know who was there, the weather, any jokes that people told, It's quite incredible. And to this day, I actually still have a piece of paper on the back of my door. And whether it's in training or whether it's in business or life in general, anything that I'm proud of, I put on that list because it's just a really nice way to reiterate the good things that you were doing. And we all can do with a little bit of a reminder about the good things that we are doing, because we're our own worst enemies when it comes to, feeling good in our own skin. We can be so quick to tear ourselves down. No one needs help being an asshole towards themselves, okay? No one needs help judging themselves. I've said it a million times before, but I find this strategy to be really helpful, and I used it a few months ago because I was just feeling a bit stuck. Like, I didn't really feel as though I was moving the needle on very much in my life. I was getting annoyed and frustrated with myself. So I turned back to that lined piece of paper and wrote down my achievements. And you're then training your eye to see the good in you, which is the benefit too. And most of us are designed to see the negative, because if we look for what might kill us or what might threaten us or what might lead us to being, rejected from the clan or rejected from our tribe, then that creates a sense of safety. It's a little bit of a challenging headspace to work from, though, when you're always looking for the bad things, when you're always looking for things to go wrong and always criticizing. There's a difference between looking for room for improvement and just tearing yourself down. And most people are in a bad habit of tearing themselves down. So that's something to be mindful of. But I found that to be a great strategy to building that momentum. I then became a little bit more aware of what I had done that was worth celebrating, and what I was happy to celebrate about myself. Again, that can be in training, it can be in business, it can be in life in general. It doesn't have to only relate to one category of your life. Use the list to your advantage and in a way that you see as being positive and beneficial to you, because these are just strategies. There's no right or wrong way to use them. Although, of course, you want to use them in a way that leaves you feeling empowered and as though you are able to take positive action steps for yourself. That is the main point. And of course, none of this really matters if you're determined to sabotage yourself. So I guess when I was writing down my notes, I was thinking about, of course, the different strategies that I use and what I find to be helpful, what I use with the people I train and work with. What I need to be highlighted above and beyond all of this is, if you were determined to tear yourself down, if you were determined to see the worst in yourself, if you were determined to always worry about things that may go wrong, if you are addicted to suffering, which is like most of us, can I just add that? If you are addicted to feeling stuck and are only ever capable of making progress for a certain amount of time before everything goes wrong, before shit hits the fan, for example, if you're only able to stick to a quote unquote diet or approach to exercise for 12 weeks before you're like, fuck it, what's the point? I'm never going to get any faster, any stronger, any better. I'm never going to lose any more weight. Then the issue here is not necessarily it's not necessarily your strategies, it's the 6 inches between your ears, in which case you probably want to engage a mental health professional who can help you unpack why you keep behaving in that manner. Because a lot of the time it's not the strategy, it's actually the headspace that is lending itself to that behavior. That behavior repeated over time becomes a habit, and that's why people do things such as yo-yo dieting. We see that a lot in the health and fitness realm. So I wanted to make sure I touched on that. These can be strategies, they can be helpful, but again, there is absolutely no long-term benefit to applying these strategies if you are your own worst enemy, and if you are determined to keep yourself stuck, keep yourself anxious, keep yourself feeling overwhelmed, and taking on the suffering of other people. If you're determined to just try and save everybody and take on the emotions of everyone and to go so far out of your way to demonstrate how much you love and care for other people, to the point that it actually stops you from getting where you want to in life and preventing you from receiving love, then that's kind of destructive behavior, Again, that is going to require the attention and engagement of an actual mental health professional. And that is not me. I love psychology. I almost did sports psychology at university. Fun little fact for you. And I have great conversations with psychologists all the time, sometimes for personal reasons, oftentimes to have them on my podcast. So again, there's going to be an episode on overwhelm with Beata Juskowiak. Hope I said that correctly. That should be this week or next. And then the following week should be with Dr. J. Lee Nair, which is on perfectionism. That was an absolute blast of an episode. I am such a good fan. Her book, which I believe is called Good Sport, you should go and get yourself a copy, which is a reminder to me to get myself a copy because we could all do with a little bit more mental health support. So I hope you enjoyed this training. It's been a little while. I didn't do one last week. I apologize. I did have one scheduled, and then my schedule changed unexpectedly, but that's okay. We're here now. If you have any suggestions on what you'd like me to cover, I am always open to receiving your suggestions because I want to talk about things you want me to talk about and want to hear about and learn about. So don't be a stranger, let me know. And I hope you have an amazing 6th of June. Apparently it's the 6th of June. Please take care wherever you are. And I look forward to seeing you in the next recording. If you do want a copy, do send me your email so that I can send the link to you directly as well. So please send me a comment with your email address if you want me to send you the link once this becomes a podcast, or I can just send you the raw footage outside of that. So let me know. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching.